Hey everyone, and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. These decks are determined using a variety of different sources to help you get the most reliable statistics as possible to help you rank up in ranked ladder. With that being said, if you'd like to support the content, hitting the like button is the best thing that you can do. It's free, and honestly, it helps tremendously, and I would certainly appreciate it. With that being said, let's get started with deck number 10. Now, we're going based on cube rate because the first week is often inundated with bots, and so statistics can be a little wild, so we're focusing in on those cubes. And coming in at number 10, we have Janejaw. I really like this deck because it's not a very greedy addition of a Lockjaw Jane Foster deck. You're really just using Jane Foster to pull that Wasp out, which can have tremendous value if you consider on turn 6 you can play something like a Giganto or a Magneto, and in addition play into the Lockjaw with the Wasp. It's tremendously valuable. Moreover, it's honestly just a solid deck. You have the Tribunal kind of win condition there, but you also have just the massive power win condition, and until the patch drops, you're going to see a lot of disruptive plays with Magneto, and even after the patch drops, of course, Magneto will have a major role to play in disrupting Miss Marvel. Regardless, this deck has an impressive cube rate, and Lockjaw is finding its way back in the meta, so don't sleep on this one. It's a solid one. We go to number 9 here, and it's Loki, and this is kind of interesting to see because Loki's cube rate is good. It's decent, and it's going to experience a massive nerf coming on Tuesday. The leaked patch notes are showcasing that Loki will have its drastic nerf. You're not going to see the collector style play, and I'm sure Loki will be okay ultimately, but it's going to be a very different shell. This is going to be traditional Loki, so if you're looking for that, this is what it's going to be, but after the patch, you're going to have to look for a very different deck, as unfortunately Loki's playstyle is going to drastically change. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see where Loki lands post-patch. Number 8, we have Tech Evolutionary. There's actually 2 high evolutionary decks on this list. This is the first. It has a very good cube rate of 0.73 positive, and honestly, it's just a really fun deck to play. This is one I've been actually experimenting with, and I gotta say, I love the tech. Incorporating both Rogue, Mobius, and Chiera allows your 1-drops to basically do a whole bunch while protected by Chiera, while meanwhile giving you a lot of options to answer the current meta. You're seeing a lot of Sarah out there. Mobius deals with that. You're also seeing lots of Scar, for instance, and Mobius deals with that. Moreover, you have the Moon Girl option with She-Hulk in order to get that Scar even cheaper if you can. Regardless, a very capable list, and you'd be surprised how hard your 1-drops can carry here, especially when you're able to get magic out for a confident turn 7. What I'll say is that this deck is a lot of fun, but we still have one high evolutionary deck to speak of on this top 10. We go to number 7 here, we have Tribunal Ramp. Tribunal's been making a bit of a comeback here, and it's been kind of steadily increasing in terms of meta share. Now, traditionally, we've been seeing a lot of ongoing Tribunal, which has the classic byline of, well, I can play Tribunal with Onslaught and Iron Man and essentially win. You also have the Hela Tribunal variants, which have kind of fallen out of favor, and now we have this, utilizing Blob to ramp yourself out, drop Blob, drop the Tribunal if you need to, a lot of options here. What's interesting about this deck is even if you ramp Blob out early, either with Wave or Electro, there's a good chance you have good stuff in your hand. You might have the Magneto just sitting in your hand anyway. You might have Tribunal. You might even have Taskmaster, which is incredible and is honestly an amazing snap condition. Ramping out the Blob and then Taskmastering it is great, especially if you're able to get that armor out early. Armoring, and then you play your Blob into that location to secure the Taskmaster play later on is always ideal. Regardless, a very strong deck. Not the highest win rate edition of Blob, but Blob continues to be an absolute staple in the meta. It has been a card that has honestly surprised all of us with regards to its competent competitive capabilities, we'll say. We go to Darkhawk at a 0.78 positive cube rate, a very strong deck, and you might be thinking, Alex, this is strange. You just finished talking about how Blob is so good. Well, this deck is only really kind of problematic versus the ramp Blob, where Blob can come out earlier on turn 5, but other than that, you've got Leech. You've got Leech for a reason. What Leech does is it makes so that if they're holding Blob in their hand and like Blob Thanos or whatever, you leech them and you make so that their Blob's useless and they can't blow up their deck to make that Darkhawk get useless. So you got a couple things here that really work. Obviously, you have the disruptive capabilities of Rock Slide and the overall package. I'd really like Iron Lad in this deck. It pretty much hits everything you want to hit. Miss Marvel continues to be a staple here, and it's the combo of Miss Marvel and Doctor Doom, which I think is going to be the way it's played moving forward with the new restrictions coming in on Tuesday's patch. So you're going to see a lot of Miss Marvel and Doctor Doom being paired together, I think. But ultimately, like Rogue, paying dividends in the current meta. You're seeing lots of ongoing, and Rogue definitely deals with that. And of course, Shadow King is a great tool against a wide variety of decks, specifically Loki until it gets nerfed and Destroy. Regardless, a very capable deck, and you'll notice that unfortunately something like a Black Widow no longer makes the list. The Zabu based list is going to focus more on 4-drops like the Miss Marvel and of course Shang-Chi. Regardless, a very capable list coming in at number 6. Number 5, we have Black Knight. There's been lots of Black Knight excitement. I even had a personal Black Knight brew, which I'm going to be talking about on the Snapchat tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed already, damn it. Not only do you want to catch the Black Knight brewing, but you want to catch that Snapchat with Cozy Snap, of course. And ultimately, Black Knight's in a great spot. I think it's so good. The changes they've made to the Ebony Blade to make it impossible to have its power reduced or to destroy, unless you commit like 3 cards to it, is truly remarkable. It's just so damn reliable. What's interesting about the decks is that, like, with the addition of Scar, some of the decks have the ability to like cheat out with Ghost Rider and of course with the Ebony Blade itself and really drop Scar's power. That's kind of what my deck does. This deck here is a little different though. It has the tech of Enchantress, but what it's also doing is it has big hitters like Miss Marvel. It has Sarah, which is a very interesting tech choice in these decks, allowing you to sneak out very wild turn 6 combos, especially when you consider Zabu's effect in addition to Sarah. So you have like this almost legitimate miracle style turn 6, which a lot of players won't be expecting. A very capable deck, and currently one of the highest win rate versions of Black Knight. If you're sleeping on Black Knight, sleep no further. I tell you, the deck is absolutely phenomenal. Then we go to Big Annie Scar. Big Annie Scar is a pretty cool deck. I like it, and it was one of the ones that I spoke about on the Snapchat when Scar was first kind of coming out. When I spoke with Cozy, I discussed how I think that Annihilus and Scar would be a very natural fit, considering you have Sentry and other big bodies. The addition of Zero and Typhoid Mary with Atuma as well, which can be hit by not only armor but also Zero itself, provides you with a lot of 10 power cards that get you to cheat out the Scar early. The deck can be a little finicky to play at times because it's all about cheating that extra power, but if that all fails, it doesn't really matter. You still have Sentry into Annihilus, which produces immense swings of power. So now bear in mind, on Tuesday, currently the leaked patch notes would suggest that Annihilus is getting a very significant nerf of 2 power, going down to a 5/5. So if you're looking to take advantage of Annihilus while he's still at the top of the meta, now would be the time. I think ultimately he'll still be okay. It's not all that much of a nerf, but I mean, it is still pretty significant. 2 power is nothing to scoff at. Regardless, one of the most interesting decks right now, a point positive 8/4 cube rate. We go to deck number 3. We're in the top 3 here. We go to Thanos Blob. No surprises here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This has been traditional Thanos Blob. It's been pretty much the same deck for a while. And what's interesting here is that, again, Blue Marvel really gets pushed forward here because of Kyera. Kyera's addition to this deck allows the stones themselves to be key contributors to the success of the deck. No longer are they just fodder. No longer are they just kind of like ramp or kind of drawing mechanics. They're actually core components of the deck. And it's without question why that the Blue Marvel is now finding its way back into these decks. It's simply too good with Kyera on the board, ensuring that those stones generate a lot of value, especially that Soul Stone. A lot of tremendous value here, and ironically, no more Professor X. No more Professor X. We're instead going towards the ramp of the Vision or Devil Dinosaur. Of course, you can even ramp out something like Scar or Magneto, which is pretty interesting because if you ramp out that Magneto on 5, well, then you know what? You got that Scar a little cheaper for that next turn, don't you? So a lot of interesting choices here. Thanos Blob, number 3. Number 2, we have She-Not, and this deck's just been remarkable. She-Not's one of my absolute favorite archetypes, and it's come roaring back to the point that I think it's starting to annoy people already this past week. The deck is remarkable, a 0.89 positive cube rate, and now you're able to use all 3 1-drops because of Kyera's ability just to protect them. There's just nothing fancy about this deck. It's just an absolute train wreck for most opponents, and Leech continues to be an absolute disaster for dealing with these limbo locations. Honestly, I have a couple brews I'll be working on, and if you want to catch the stream on Twitch, come by, because we're playing a lot of Legion to counter the She-Not style decks. It is a surprise card that is honestly just stealing cubes away from the high Evo players, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, check us out. However, I will say that the deck is just remarkable. It performs exceptionally well as long as you can protect that limbo. And unfortunately, one of the things that Legion does really well is it wipes out limbo. So bear that in mind. If you're looking for some Legion brews, that's what you're going to want to do to counter She-Not. And then we move on to number 1, and it's Lockdown. We've seen variations of this Guardians Lockdown style list. Originally, it started with Drax from W Snap, absolutely fantastic deck. And then now we have this iteration of Lockdown, which is currently at the top at a 0.94 cube rate. And honestly, it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. I still love the fact that my Lady Medusa is making work happen in these decks here. And it's honestly just a good stuff deck. Honestly, it is. It's Miss Marvel, Jessica Jones making a splash here with the Storm, of course. But what's notable here is that if you storm JJ and win that location and you end up earning initiative, Alioth's back. Now, what you'll notice is that we've not been talking a lot about Alioth. Alioth has been a card that's kind of fallen out of favor with the drop of Professor X, specifically in those Thanos-based shells. However, now what you're seeing is that you're actually catching people by surprise with Alioth. Alioth is slipping out of the memory of some people's gameplay scenarios. And what's happening here is you're going 8 cubes against not just bots, but against actual human players, and they're being caught by surprise because Alioth has kind of fallen out of favor and now can steal some cubes for real. That being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.